Alrighty, let's go ahead and add some color to this bad boy. We've got something that I like to do just to be a little bit helpful when I'm trying to do a consistent color palette for a piece. I like to kind of make my color swatches. And one way we can do that is we can go ahead and select our shape tool over here on the left. It's the rectangle. Go ahead and select my shape tool. I'm going to hold shift down when I drag so I can make a perfect square. Hold shift down and drag, make a perfect square. I'm going to go ahead and click this little arrow here on the left for my color swatches, my fill and my stroke. And it's this little swap arrow. And then click that. So that way I have no stroke color. And I do have a fill color. With the square selected, I'm going to go over here to my tools and I'm going to select my eyedropper. The eyedropper is a wonderful tool. Now I have some pictures here of Aang, and in those pictures we have some shadow, we have some lights, we have some darks. And so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab a standard color of his red for his tunic, because I'm going to click the red. Now, it's important to make sure that these image layers are not locked. If they are locked, then you won't get a color from them. I'm going to duplicate this square. I'm just going to hold Option, click and drag. Option, when you click and you hold Option, you see that double arrow that appears on my mouse, a black and a white arrow appearing. That means you're going to duplicate the shape. I'm going to make this the shadow color. It's kind of this dark red color there. I'm going to duplicate both of these. I'm going to make this top one the bright yellow color. It looks a little off, not quite what I want. Maybe just, yeah, that one's a little muted yellow, more banana yellow, not so neon. And I'm going to go for the shadow, kind of this gold, dark gold color. Good. And I'm going to do 3 more, at least 3 more. I'm going to add one to the bottom. I'm going to make it this dark color that he uses on his belt and his eyebrows. I'm going to snag it from the belt down here. It's this really dark brown color. And then I'm going to do a couple for his skin. And get this image up here is a bit more pale and bright. This one's a bit more enriched. I'm going to choose this highlight color for his skin. And I'm going to choose this shadow color for his skin. And we could go with this highlight color for his skin, but I do think that there's probably a color between here. Because if this is technically supposed to be a light highlights, and so this is supposed to be a shadow. So this color here would probably be an in-between. I'm going to go ahead over to my color guide here. I'm just going to play around with it a little bit. These are CMYK, right? Remember we talked about for print. You have cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And so here are my sliders that I get to play with for those. I'm going to play with this just a tad. That's not too bad. I feel like that's a pretty good in-between. Maybe a little dark, bring that, no black in there. And I'm gonna keep it a little warm, a little pinkish. I don't want it to be too pale. And that's not too bad. That is not too bad at all. This could actually be a little lighter for a highlight, I think. Bring that up just a tad. And here's my color palette. Wonderful. With all of these squares selected, I'm going to go over to the right. I'm going to have my align window. Again, if you don't ever have one of the panels that I have on the right side, you can go to window and select the line. And I'm going to align to selection for this option. And I'm going to select the distribute spacing vertical, just to perfectly align those. How wonderful. Really, really great. And now the rest of my time coloring, I can refer to these. I'm going to hit Command G to group them together. Call it color palette in my layers. I'm going to make a new layer. Call this layer color. I'm going to put my color palette on that layer. I'm going to close my lines layer. I'm going to put my lines layer on top. I'm going to lock it. I'm also going into my lines layer. I'm going to hide the sketch. Oh, excuse me. I locked the whole layer before I did this. I'm going to hide my sketch layer. I'm going to lock the whole thing. Wonderful. You know what? I just did that, but then I realized I actually still need my sketch layer because I've got shadows and highlights in that. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this down. I'm going to move all my images down to my color layer just so they're on the bottom. Work even better. Oop, so that way we can lock those. And it's even better. I'm going to lock my lines, have my color layer selected. So now anything I do on my color layer will not affect the black lines, which is fantastic. Let me get rid of this gray. Well, I don't need to get rid of that gray. Actually, I'm going to keep that. Those shapes need to move. The shapes that I did the previous demonstration for my grays need to move down to my colors layer. I'm going to do that real quick because I want to keep those. I don't want to make double work for myself. But I'm going to make sure that I keep those colors. I'm going to leave his eyebrows on top here. I will move his ankle band down to the colors layer. Because his eyebrows are one shape, yeah. I'll leave the eyebrows for now. Lock the lines. Here we go. All right, so I've got my color palette ready. One other quick little tip you can do. If you don't want to have these actual squares sitting here in your project, you can have, I'm going to ungroup them real quick. With one of them selected, go over to your swatches window. See, now this is your swatches. When you can make colors in your color guide window here, your panel, and then go to your swatches panel. And this is where you have all your swatch options. Of course, by default, Illustrator gives you a lot of good default swatches that can be helpful sometimes. If you don't have colors that you want to use, it can be helpful to filter through these and maybe adjust some of them. So they are a good starting point. I've used those several times when I'm rushing a project for somebody and using those to help come up with color ideas. But you can make your own. So you can select with the square selected and this color in it. I can go to the little hamburger menu on the top right of my color guide, and it says create new swatch here at the bottom. I'm going to click that. I'm going to name it. I'm going to name it Ang Skin Highlight. I'm going to leave it as a process color. And these are the CMYK values of it. I'm going to leave that. Hit OK. Repeat that for these others. Ang Skin Mid-tone. Ang Skin Shadow. Get the idea, right? I like to name them according to, mid-tone, highlight, shadow. Even if you don't have all of those, like for example, with this yellow, I just have a Ang tunic yellow. I just have the yellow color, and then I have the shadow color. So I just name one the color, and then the other one is the shadow color or the highlight of that color. So in this case, I'm going to have Ang tunic red. I'm just going to leave it at that, And then this one will be Ang tunic red shadow. And an egg belt there. Now, if I go to my swatches, boom, look at that. Look at this lovely collection here that I made of my own swatches. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and just delete these others, just to get them out of the way. You don't have to do that. You can leave them, but I'm just going to delete them so I don't have to stare at them. Okay, so we have our color palette ready. We have some reference images. If for your assignment, whatever your object is, whatever your person, thing, whatever your picture is, you can have that here, or you can have it underneath, whatever you prefer. And I'm going to go ahead and start making some color shapes. Now, there will be a little bit of overlap here because in the grayscale video, I showed how you can either do a new shape using your pen tool and overlap all the current shape, or use your pencil. So I'm going to do both here just to show a demonstration yet again of what you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up here to this the collar that we worked on. So one technique, make sure I'm on my colors layer, of course. Let me get my little viewport out of the way here. All right, so with my lines blocked, I don't have to worry about clicking those. So now I can, here's one technique. This is the technique I did not do in the grayscale because I don't really like it, but I'm just going to show you anyway, just for the sake of the demonstration. This is one technique where you essentially just recreate the entire shape using the pencil. And the important thing here is just to keep my lines that I'm creating underneath the black lines. I don't want to be making lines, for example, like out here, because then now my color is outside of my outline. I don't want that. And a good way to do this too is to emulate the way you did your lines. So maybe your curves are the same, your points are in the same spots, your anchor points are in the same spots as they were when you did your black lines. Just trying to emulate that really well. As I do his collar here, I go around. As you get the hang of doing stuff in Illustrator like this, like when we're doing it now, it might seem kind of tedious. Like, man, this takes so much time. Nowadays, in comparison to what I'm doing full time, in my work, this is the easy stuff. And this is almost relaxing to me. Like, I just kind of like just sitting here, tracing something. Like, cause I mentioned in previous video, this is kind of how I got my start. Like, when I first started playing with this stuff, wanting to get into graphic design, that's what I did. I just started tracing characters that I liked, and I started finding cartoons and stuff I wanted to trace. And I just did that a lot. So it's kind of brings me back. It's a little nostalgic, it's kind of relaxing, but also just very, soothing. Kind of just enjoy it, like painting, like a Bob Ross painting special, kind of happy little trees, man. So I've completed my shape. Here's the shape that I did in full. But it, of course, stays underneath the black lines. And so from here, it looks like one solid shape with that black line on top of it, right? I'm going to go ahead and hit my little swap button here, because I've got a shadow on this bad boy. So I can go ahead, and that shadow kind of runs along. Let me say it this way: the highlights along this edge here. So the highlights kind of here, and goes up here, and then tapers off. And the rest of it's kind of in shadow. So I am going to go ahead and do my shadow shape. All I did with that last shape was I just swapped the colors from fill to stroke. So that way it's still there. It's just hidden out of the way so I can see what I'm doing with this next shape, which I'm going to start right about up here. And I'm going to do the shadow shape. Which means that this is going to taper off some. And then I'm just going to trace again, keeping my lines underneath the black ones. Now, in this case, I can be a bit more particular about or I should say less particular about where I put my points as far as having really nice curves and stuff. I really could, if I wanted to, I could just kind of do this little dot after dot after dot kind of thing, Not have to make them all really nice curves. Up to you. Again, the point is to make sure that just the lines stay underneath the black outline. So as long as your edge of your color shapes is underneath your black outline, I mean, it's fair game. How do you want to do it? I'll bring this up here. Sometimes I do that just to make it a little quicker, kind of cut corners. Boop, 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 and close it. All right. I'm going to make sure that this one is this should be tunic yellow, shadow. And I'm going to go to my layers, make sure I have these layered properly. Flip this one again. Now this one's the wrong color. I'm going to make sure it's the tunic yellow. So there we go. So make sure that, and the shadow's on top. So we've got the yellow highlight here. We've got the yellow shadow there. Very, very nice. Now I'm going to go down here. I'm going to do this knee. So it's already got these shapes. That's really nice. So this is let me make sure I'm right here. Just looking at what he's got going on. I believe this part here, this is actually a divide here, I think. So you guys can see we use a fun little tool. I'm going to go over here to the left. I'm going to select my eraser tool, but I'm going to hold it down. And I'm going to select the knife tool. So I'm going to hover over it and let go. The knife tool is a nice little quick way to just make a slice through something. I've got this one shape here, but I believe this line here separates between two different colors of his outfit. So I'm going to go ahead and click over here outside the shape. And I'm going to carefully draw my line through where that black line is. Be pretty accurate there. It gets a little jerky as it's trying to align itself to what you're doing. Let go. And would you look at that? Now I have two separate shapes here. Marvelous. That's exactly what I wanted. So I can go ahead and make this the tunic yellow. I want to make it the shadow, because then this should be tunic yellow as the highlight. And then this as his underside, I believe it's pretty dark. So I'm going to do a tunic red. I might even I'll do the shadow. Tunic red shadow. Yeah. As the underside there. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and make this belt brown since it's brown. Marvelous. All right. What should we color next? Oh, let's go ahead and do his head. It's fun. Just for fun, right? Just for fun. I'll do this little neck portion here first. Actually, no, I'll just do the head. The head should be fun because then we can do the face. We can do the shadow on his face with the highlights. That'll be fun. Okay. So I'm gonna do the pencil tool. Do this method this time. Here we go. So last time I just did the pen tool and I did the shapes, tracing, and everything. This time I'm going to use pencil. Pencil to me is a little faster. I like it better personally. I'm going to start here in this corner. I'm going to go on. I'm going to go around. And I also like it because, I can stop, rearrange, pick right back where I left off, go up around here on his ear. And if you're on a tablet, if you happen to be using any sort of a tablet that's connected to your computer, that allows you to use a pencil to draw in Illustrator. That is extremely helpful. And that would make pencil tool probably more of your go-to as well. I personally think that I'm a lot faster with the pen tool when I'm using my tablet to draw. Right now I'm using my mouse just for the sake of the demonstration. If I'm using my tablet, I can obviously move a lot just faster with a lot more natural movements, of course. But I do find pencil to be very nifty when you're doing when you're using a tablet. And the same thing with pen tool. Pen tool is faster when I'm using a tablet as well. So it just depends on what you're feeling, you know. Try both methods, see what you like better. Like maybe you think pencil is faster, but I got to go back and fix up all those points, you know, all those ones that get wobbly, get off, get out of line. Hey, you know, that's not what you want to do, then more power to you. Different ways to do this, you know. And the more Illustrator grows and they keep developing new tools for it and stuff like that, you know, there's other tools eventually that you can use to help mix into your workflow to help this process, you know, maybe go a little smoother. But you got to teach it the classics first. Always got to learn the fundamentals. Sometimes it's helpful to learn the way that we used to do it, you know, and then be like, okay, now I can show you the easy way. But unfortunately, in this case, this is the easy way for me. So, of course, then I can go back in and take these lines, make sure that these points are all underneath make sure this is the skin color. Make sure all these points are underneath the edges there, black lines. There's one there, one down here. A little tedious process. I'm not going to do the whole thing with you right now. I'm not going to make you sit through me having to go through it point by point. Of course, I would. Doing this, especially professionally, I would go through and do every single point just to make sure it's all lined up perfectly, nice and clean. That is my standard. I don't like to cut corners, especially if I'm being paid money for it. I want to do my best work. I want to make sure that everything I do looks its best. That it looks like, even if it's a simple project, and I want to make sure that it's well worthwhile. Even if somebody's paying me less, you know, if it's something where they're paying me less because that's all they can afford, and I still agree to it, I'm still going to give them my best work. You know, I don't take my work that I do and say, you know, and like, I don't, how do I say this? I don't shift or organize the quality of work that I turn out based on like tiers of, you know, what level you're able to pay at, what level client you are, you know, kind of thing. Like either I accept the project or I don't. You know, if I don't accept it because the price is too low or because I don't have the time, then I just don't do it. Obviously, because I'm not accepting it. But if I do accept it, then that's my commitment to say, hey, I'm going to give you what I can do. You know, I'm not going to be like, well, you get, you know, half of the effort I would normally put in. Like, no, if you commit to doing something, I mean, you could do that. You know, you could make it to where, oh, well, you're only paying me this much. And you get, you know, you don't get my best quality work. But you could do that. You know, that's a good way to lose clients, though. It's a good way to lose trust, and lose a good relationship, you know, good way to make people upset. Once they, you know, obviously you don't have to tell them that's how you do things, but if that is how you do things and they find out, how come you too thrilled about that? You know, but and that's why I either take the gig or I don't. You know, I either do it, yeah, I'll agree to it and I give it my best, or I just don't do it because I don't think it's worth my time. I don't think it's worth the money. You know, so just something to keep in mind if you ever get into freelancing and stuff like that. Just don't sell yourself short. It's hard to put a price on yourself. That's always extremely hard. But at the end of the day, for me, what I ended up deciding off of my price was kind of decided for me at a certain point, or even suggested. It was suggested at a certain point. I said, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go with that. And since then, I just kind of raise it a little bit. If I get higher caliber clients, I'll raise it a little bit as I go, and I'll just, essentially, if anyone ever questions it, I just use the fact that it's a side hustle. So I have other commitments. So it makes my time a lot more limited, which means it's a lot more valuable to have my focus. And the fact that we have mouths to feed, four little kids at home, and I'm the sole breadwinner of the house. So, it's a good way to make people realize that, hey, this is no joke. If you're going to take my time with this, then it's going to be worthwhile for me. I'm not to the point where I'm just giving away freebie work anymore because I got mouths to feed. I got bills to pay, you know? So I ended up fixing all those points. You can see how long that took, obviously. If you fast forward through that part, scrub through it, I don't blame you. But so either way, either technique, whether you do the pencil or the pen tool for your color shapes, it's going to take some time, right? And that's really just depends on which one you prefer, which one you find easier. Now, I am going to use the pencil tool to do the highlights on his face. So I can see here that he's got one over here, kind of like this. They're not maybe exact to the picture, but they're pretty close. And one that goes this way. So there's part of his nose here. We got another one. I want it to be a little more precise. There we go. That one's on his nose there. He's got one down here on his lip. Got a little one over here. Light coming down. So the light's coming down on his nose and on his cheeks. And he probably won't have any on his top lip, but he might have some on his chin, maybe. I'm kind of adding one here. It's kind of free ball and see how it looks. If I don't like it, I can just delete it. But I'm going to free ball it, see how it is. All right. I'm going to take these. Going to swap those around. I'm going to make those the highlight color. And I don't really like how some of these closed up. That's the other thing about the pencil tool. Sometimes when you close the shape, it kind of does this weird loop to loop kind of thing. So I'm going to take my pen tool. I'm going to hold it down. I'm going to go to delete anchor. And so now I can delete these points that are kind of jacked up. Got one going on down here. Got one going on down here. Take my pen tool and close these up. And reshape them. Okay. Gotta find my line for his skin. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Look at that. These could even be a little lighter. So with those selected, I'm going to double click my skin to highlight. I'm going to raise it up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. I like that better. Just a little lighter. Get real bright. Look like something's going on. That arrow is white. Go to my layers, double check on my arrow here. Looks like my arrow is. Yeah. And these two shapes are white as well. Okay, then make those white. Yeah. Super cool. Oh, eyebrows are not on top. Gotta shift those around. Awesome. Also, now these are a little jagged, right? Because I did them quickly with the pencil. Um, Pencil is a little precise. You can take the pencil and so hold on. I'm undoing things I don't want to undo. Can you redo, please? Thank you. But it's sometimes a little wonky, depending on how precise you have the pencil tool set to. So we'll round these out just a smidge. My direct selection tool. You can do stuff like that. Yeah, just make it a little smoother looking, But pretty cool if you ask me. Got some cool highlights going on there. Can put a little shadow in his ear if I want to. Let me go back to my pencil. And his ear would have some shadow in it. So I'm going to do something like this. And follow that around there. Oh, I went way off course there. Move that up. So, yep. So it's just up to you which tool you end up liking better. If you want to use pen and be more precise, it's pencil, be more freestyle, whatever. Got a shadow in his ear. I'm going to grab pencil. His eyes are glowing with light. I should probably explain that. His eyes are glowing with light. So that's why we have these highlights right here on his face. We even do something like that for his bottom lip. Something like this under his nose. Could work too. Stuff like that. I'm not sure if I like the chin one. Maybe something at the bottom of his chin would look better. Yeah, I like that better. The dark shadow like that is a lot better. Now, at this point, I'm just kind of making them up. I don't have those in the drawing necessarily. I'm just making those up as I go. But yeah, that's fun. Could do similar over here. You know, starting to look like something, huh? Isn't that kind of cool? I'll go ahead and finish off with maybe his foot down here. I'm gonna do this real quick, so please excuse my messy, messy lines. I'm not gonna worry about trying to make them line up real nice. I'm just gonna quickly do this. Go down here. Go back around here. Go along here. Closed. And I'll fix this one. Any big gaps? I'm just trying to close this up real quick. Yep. Sometimes, depending on how it layers, right? So like this part here of his tunic would be over top of the leg. The leg part here, the boot part is not really a boot, but it's kind of like a legging kind of part. So that's some fun. You can layer that. So that would go underneath, which means that any part that I have that's kind of wonky, it crosses over into here. I don't care because you can't see it. So throw it up there. Doesn't have to be right under the black line. You can have it be underneath the shape. That's fine. As long as it works. Hey, now. Don't work yourself too hard now. Yeah, there we go. It's a nice color. Do another one. Follow his ankle. Boop. There we go. coming together nicely. And then this part here is that dark brown color that's around his ankle. Put in my swatches. It's like that dark. And again, I would expect you guys to make these line up properly with the edges, but for the sake of time in this demonstration, I am just throwing this together very quickly, very roughly. And you can see where I'm going here. And then if I'm just eyeballing it, thinking, man, this would be kind of nice if we had a bit of a shadow here on his heel. And look, that wasn't very good. Try that again. Maybe we have like this portion here is in shadow, and then maybe it's kind of starting to think about where the light lies and where the shadows are, stuff like that. I have something down like this for a shadow. That side. Got something cool going here. Man, oh man, starting to look like something. Ain't that nice? The shadow over there. I didn't like that one as much. That's how we color in Illustrator, guys. That's how we do color. So by the end of this, I could have this whole thing filled in with these different colors, highlights and shadows, right? Layered on each other properly and nice and clean edges, So that way, by the end of it, you'd have something that looks like this, looks like something that's out of the show, That's the idea anyway. So I'm not going to go ahead and worry about finishing the whole thing right now, unless it's sort of like a time lapse, thing, just to move it along quickly. But I really hope that this is helpful to you guys. I hope that you can take this and do some cool stuff with it. And of course, let me know if you have questions. All right, reach out to me if you have concerns or issues with anything in Illustrator, anything that confuses you. And hopefully, this will be very helpful in you guys completing your assignment for your colored drawing of your personal object of your choice.